Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Let me do this quick set. Yep, there we go. We are good. So let's do this. Episode 5. Let's knock it the hell out of the park right now. I'm not going to delay it another week. I have too many things to do. I still did this, even though I was really busy with 2 Halloween parties, haunted corn maze, and passport renewal. My passport is completely full. There is no more room left for stamps in my passport. I have to get it renewed because I may or may not be traveling to attend the season 35 finale of The Amazing Race. The finale viewing party, I should say. I'm going to do that again this year. I did it last December in Miami, and I'm doing it again this year. So it should be a hell of a lot of fun. Nah, it's not going to be as fun as Miami. Let's be honest. It's not going to be as fun as it was that year. Okay, so we're talking about leg five, because as I said in the episode 4, leg 4 recap, Phil Kogan himself said it was teams ran 2 legs in the same day. Again, I know I've said this many times, but he contradicted himself so many times and then went back to the default definition of what constitutes a leg on The Amazing Race, which, as I said before, the lesson is I'm always right, except for the times when I'm wrong. Let's see. And editors, or production rather, Dan rather, made this really easy for us as a viewer to follow departure times. And when I mean viewers, I mean just only the podcasters who end up taking notes to take note of departure times. Remember after season 14 when they just started screwing with us and they either wouldn't show any departure times or they'd show only 1 or 2 departure times, and then anyone who was recapping the show or wanting that specific info as to how far apart teams finished on the previous leg, that we were just SOL. Well, this season they haven't missed a single departure time yet. Michael Harmstone would be very happy about that. Let's see. So teams find out they're going to Jaipur, India, which is known as the Pink City, Toulouse, France, Yerevan, Armenia, also referred to as the Pink City. They've all been visited by Amazing Race as well as international franchises too. And Amazing Race US has already visited Jaipur previously. They've covered every major pink city on the planet. And now they've covered Jaipur, India more than once. In fact, teams read they were going to the Amber Palace. That was used in season 1. We're going back 34 seasons, and they reused the same location. And Phil Kogan didn't even announce it as an official switchback, which is mildly disappointing because they love to throw in those switchbacks whenever they can. But maybe I wouldn't be surprised if the production team forgot that they were there 22 years earlier. Sometimes you forget some things. Bertram's not getting any younger. Ages joke. That wasn't the best. Let's see. So first team checked out the pit stop 7 a.m. 7 o'clock on the dot, and we get it all the way down to when Morgan and Lena checked out at 7:36 a.m. So if the first team was at 7 o'clock and the last team checked out of the pit stop at 7:36. I think that means that there is a 36-minute spread between first and last place for this at the pit start this leg. I think so. I think that works out to 36 minutes. I'm not 100% sure on that. And Morgan confirms for Lena that India is indeed a part of Asia. If only, if I wish you didn't confirm that for her and just wait to see if Lena said that it was in Africa. That would have been hilarious. If only somebody gave the same courtesy to Jessica and Brittany from season 28. Oddly enough, Jessica may be hiding out somewhere in Asia. We don't know. She's been missing for 4 years. I think Interpol still has an active warrant out for her arrest. I don't know why I think it's as funny as it is. Maybe because it is a little bit funny to me. I think so. Okay, so after production is hyping up, old school Amazing Race, old school. We're doing every traditional thing we can, and we don't get a flight scramble. all remaining 10 teams, including their audio and visual crew, all 40 tickets are on the same flight. All 40 people are put on the same flight. So much for flight scramble there, because with 10 teams, that would have been a hell of a flight scramble between Kanto or rather Ho Chi Minh City Airport and Jaipur Airport. Too bad. And teams are held in the baggage area, and then they all get to run out of security at the same time, because that's what they do now. Getting through security isn't part of the race anymore, or getting through customs. I miss those days from season 3. So again, it's not as old school as you think. They just conveniently use that to help promote the season. Hey, this is old school. This is what we did 20 years ago, except that, and this, and that, and that. Definitely the budget isn't as big as it was 20 years ago, because next week they've already confirmed episode 6, leg 6, is in India again, which means 6 legs in only 3 countries. And I believe they have not done so few countries through 6 legs since the infamous season 24 debacle, where they did 8 legs in only 4 countries, where it was 2 legs per country consistently through the first 8 legs, and the first 6 legs indeed were all in Asia. They used China, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka for that season. That's why season 24 still considered the worst of all the American seasons. And I had to podcast about it, and I'm getting awfully close to that season for the TARstorian episode blogs. I'm not happy about that. I don't want to talk about Dave and Connor and Caroline and Jennifer for 12 episodes. Okay, let's see. So we get an active route info. So we're seeing where production is likely heading with these 90-minute episodes, because with 13 teams, they're wise enough to only do 2 tasks. Same with when they had 12 teams and with 11 teams. What was it last episode with episode 4 with 11 teams? We had the detour, the roadblock, and pit stop combined, as well as the pagoda wish thing. Is that considered active route info, just writing a wish? Let's say it is. And here again, now we have a longer active route info in addition to a separate detour, separate roadblock, and a separate pit stop. So who knows? Maybe we will see more and more tasks added as the teams dwindle down, because that's the biggest fear I think I have, and many other people do, is that are they just going to do active route info, roadblock, detour, pit stop with 5 teams or 4 teams, or in the finale with 3 teams, and have it fill a 90-minute episode? Because that could really, really drag for a lot of viewers, because people were even complaining that 90-minute episodes were too long with with 13 and 12 teams. Okay, so unfortunately, we have to address the elephant in the room, which is we did see people riding elephants at Amber Palace. Again, we always say, yeah, it's their culture. We can't commentate on it. We're not part of that community. We're not part of that culture. That's just how it is around the world. But we now know over the past several years that riding elephants is very, very, very unethical. We're not even supposed to touch elephants to wash them. Elephants get really stressed out about that. A lot of viewers complained about that over the years with people riding elephants. And there was still a lot of debate back then of, oh, well, that's part of the culture. People ride elephants all the time. What's the big deal? But now the research is so overwhelming that we shouldn't do that. The last couple times I've traveled through Southeast Asia, when Gian and I lived in Thailand for 5 months, we made a rule that we wouldn't ride any elephants. In fact, I think 10 years ago, roughly, Gian was in Bangkok, Thailand, I think, and you were allowed. And there was a place near Bangkok where she rode elephants with one of her coworkers, I believe. And then once it became, because at that time it was still relatively okay, not frowned upon to ride elephants back then. There was still heavy debate. But it's nowhere like it is now, where everyone says, no, that is an extremely outdated practice. We can't do that anymore. So after the tide shifted that way, Gian removed all of her photos publicly, and I think permanently deleted a lot of her personal photos of herself riding an elephant. And I've contemplated doing a similar thing when a few years ago when I was in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I went to the Tiger Kingdom and I was looking up as many reviews as I could as to whether or not it was ethical to visit the Tiger Kingdom. And I saw fairly mixed reviews, some balanced reviews. There wasn't overwhelming negativity, there wasn't overwhelming positivity. So I went, and now the more I've thought about it the past 4 years, 4.5 years now, I've been thinking, I don't know if I should have gone to that Tiger Kingdom. But in terms of elephants now and riding elephants, yeah, that's a no go. I was even surprised a bit when they rode elephants in season 31. Season 31, they were still riding elephants, and Lao in production had to really defend it, saying elephants are treated ethically. But now it's just no matter how well you treat an elephant, elephants do not like having people ride on top of them. They're just not meant for that. And I believe most places now ban elephant washing because before it was okay, you can't ride the elephant, but go to an elephant sanctuary and wash the elephant. Now we find out that elephants still get really stressed out if you wash them. Again, I know a lot of people aren't tuning into this. In fact, not many people at all are watching this recap, but very, very few people want to hear me discuss about this at length. And it's for some people might be, who cares? That's their culture subject. But we have to address the elephant in the room. So on one hand, it sucked to see it acknowledged that people are riding elephants in around the Amber Palace in Jaipur. On the other hand, it's definitely a victory that they didn't make teams ride an elephant this episode, because I was thinking, oh no, don't make them ride the elephant. I know what's coming. Because when season 31 aired, that was back in 2019, where things were still on the fence a little bit back then. But 4 years later, things have changed drastically so much that if a team was riding an elephant this leg, there would have been way more backlash than you would have seen 4 years ago. Okay, moving on from the elephant in the room. We're getting so much hype around the edit about the U-turn. We know it's going to be Robin and Chelsea or Steve and Annalie. It's either going to be the team that isn't getting along with anybody, which is Robin and Chelsea. If you've seen the international version, specifically Amazing Race Australia 2, the antisocial team, aka Paul and Steve, or just really Paul, gets must vote U-turned first, and the UT for shorthand gets must vote U-turned first. And then the competitive team typically gets U-turned later on, which is what happened to Sticky and Sam later on in Amazing Race Australia 2. And similar things, I believe, happened in Amazing Race Australia 4. That one's even funnier because Eureka Productions doesn't have the best reputation, and that's when they started producing Amazing Race Australia, was with season 4. And Tom and Tyler themselves have said publicly that they feel that must vote U-turn was just created on the spot to screw them over, because they won 8 out of the first 10 legs, and they figured the must vote U-turn came in on the penultimate leg, on leg 11, designed just to try and get them out of the race. And even then, Tom and Tyler only lost by 1 minute. So production barely succeeded in rigging it against Tom and Tyler. I don't know why they haven't gone into more detail publicly about why they think the U-turn was rigged against them, or why it was just created on the spot to get them out. Because I just can't see Eureka Productions caring enough to sue Tom and Tyler, considering season 4 is long gone and not many people watch that season, and not many people watch Amazing Race Australia now. But for whatever reason, Tom and Tyler have chosen to keep their cards close to their chest in regards to that U-turn. But here, it's very clearly planned out for season 35, and they're not doing it the terrible way like in season 31, where they did a must vote double U-turn then, but they did a turn-based public vote, so everyone could base their vote based off of the previous votes cast. So if you drew the straws early and got the first ticket to U-turn, you were really putting yourself at risk, as opposed to people at the back of the lineup or last or second to last in order. It doesn't really care how they vote at that point. They could just follow along and they're not going to be at risk. So luckily they're doing it properly, like all the international versions do. Everyone votes. It's all anonymous, or in Brent and Katie's case, unanimous. And yeah, It's clearly going to be Stephen Annoley or Robin and Chelsea. However, it would be so funny if it's just a completely random team and this edit has just led us all astray. That would be awesome. Okay, let's see. So teams active route info. Teams carried the sugar cane up a steep hill. That clearly to the all male teams, the young all male teams, Greg and John and Liam and Jeremy were at the back of the pack when they picked up the sugar cane, and given how physical that task was, I think Greg and John and Liam and Jeremy were able to make some time quite quickly on that steep run up the hill. And it wasn't a super long active route info. It was just long enough to where they could fill up some of the 90 minutes of airtime on TV. Sadly, they did not get to drink sugarcane juice. They got teased with egg coffee last leg. This leg, they got teased with sugarcane. And when I was in Singapore, I could drink a lot of sugarcane juice. Yeah, that's why I can never do drugs. I know I could get addicted so quickly. If I can get addicted to sugarcane juice, just imagine cocaine in my system. That would be it for me. Let's see. The roadblock was who is feeling balanced, and it was hilarious to see Corey do this roadblock, not just because he sucked so badly at it, but some of his poses reminded me a lot of the Justin Trudeau pose when he's in India. Corey had a couple of those moments. Todd channeled his inner Allen Iverson with complaining that Ashley was practicing too much. Practice. Who practices? Who bothers with practice? I know I butchered that Allen Iverson quote. I didn't. Everyone has seen that clip, I think, unless you don't care about sports, in which case you've never seen that clip in your life. But yes, Todd draws upon another basketball reference. He really is turning into the Marcus of Amani and Marcus from season 19 and connecting everything to whatever his professional sporting background is. You're following in good company, Todd. Always following Marcus's footsteps. And somebody online who blogged about season 19 compared Marcus to Stringer Bell from The Wire. There's only one thing those two have in common, ladies and gentlemen. There's only one thing they have in common. Marcus is nothing like Stringer Bell from The Wire. I'm sorry. Let's see. Oh, after the active route info, teams had to go to the place where the infamous roadblock for Amazing Race Australia 2 occurred, where they had to do the equation of going down 40 steps and go up 10 or 11 steps, one of those two numbers. And it completely screwed up a team in Amazing Race Australia 2 to the point that Lucy and Amelia survived yet another certain elimination because of that. And Amazing Race US decided not to plagiarize one of Michael McKay's tasks, so they just had the clue there. And detour was the puppets or the paintings, the images. And it is one of those rare occasions where everyone goes for one detour that proves to be much harder than the other detour. So, and it was limited stations. So Todd and Ashley losing that foot race boosted them several positions. Rob and Corey went from near certain doom to skyrocketing way up in the pack just because they knew to choose the right detour option. I don't know what it was in the description there. I'm sure teams have talked about in their recaps by this point, but the puppets seemed to only take teams about 20 minutes, and then you have a team like Morgan and Lena who took 2 hours and still couldn't complete the image detour and were able to switch the puppets and still beat Joe and Ian to the pit stop. And Joe and Ian started the detour at the same time as just before Todd and Ashley did. And Todd and Ashley finished way up in the pack, and Joe and Ian were eliminated. And as I've said in the comments section of every recap podcast for this week, Joe and Ian, you should have packed some red shells in your bag so that you could just throw them at Morgan and Lena's cab on the rickshaw on the way to the pit stop. That's hilarious. Anna Lee, she is a professional travel vlogger, and she didn't know what a rickshaw was. She's not an idiot. I got to make that clear. I don't think she's an idiot for not knowing that. I'm always fascinated by things that say 60 or 70 or 80% of the population knows that has nothing to do with the person's field of or something that 60, 70, or 80% of people know that has to do with that person's field of expertise. But the person who is the expert in that field, just for whatever reason, completely misses out on that piece of info their whole life. I'm always fascinated when things like that happen, because that's happened to me before too, with certain geographical things that everyone else in the room knows except for me, especially if it's Canadian geography, where that just goes over my head and everyone's really surprised, or something about I don't know, 90s or early 2000s comedies or music that I haven't heard about that everyone else knows. I'm always fascinated by that, and for whatever reason, for Anna Lee, a rickshaw is just something just went way over her head. Let's see. So Steve and Anna Lee are passed by goats. They are not passed by goats. That was David and Jeff. They were in season 4 of The Amazing Race. Pardon me. Steve and Anna Lee passed by goats. I'm surprised that Steve didn't stop to eat one of the goats. I have a feeling that's something he would eat on his farm. Or is that Big Tom Buchanan from Survivor Africa? He's a goat farmer. He eats goats. You got to eat the goat to become the goat. Liam and Jeremy both hate dancing. And then Jeremy, of course, did the serial killer dance routine. The dance routine itself wasn't killer. It's the fact that he looks like an actual serial killer the whole time. It's tough to go from those super emotional moments to them joking about each other being mass murderers. It's quite the contrast in their edit so far this season. And let's see. Of course, we have the Franklin alliance between Morgan and Lena and Greg and John. I do not think we see any mention of the Franklin alliance if it's only a 60-minute episode as opposed to a 90-minute episode, especially when those two teams very rarely have overlapping interactions so far this season, because Greg and John are so consistently near the top, and then Morgan and Lena are so consistently eating shit near the bottom of the pack. So that's the main contrast there. Let's see. I already talked a lot about the detour. All other podcasts are going into more detail about it than me. Do you need me adding extra commentary? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Steve and Anna Lee, they win this leg, and they actually get a prize this time. And they won 3,000 USD each, which isn't the worst cash prize in Amazing Race history. And it is much better than any prize you could win compared to Amazing Race Australia 7 this season, because Amazing Race Australia 7 has so few sponsors that the first place prize has consistently been a hotel room upgrade at that pit stop, because they don't have any sponsors at all. And with Amazing Race Canada, it's usually Michael's gift cards or whatever, maybe a Samsung gift card. But here, cold hard cash or a trip courtesy of Expedia that you don't have to pay taxes on because it comes in the form of points. I'm not complaining about that. This is as good as the prizes have ever been. Although Justin and Diana receiving $47,000 or whatever the hell it was from Fitbit, 27,000, I think it was $27,000 from Fitbit. That was a pretty damn good prize. And let's see. Oh, Corey hammers his own thumb. Lena accidentally sews Morgan's eye shut. So we didn't see it at the pit stop because there was a lot to show in 90 minutes this week. But Morgan will start the next leg of the race with the Sagat or Slick Rick-esque eye patch, King K. Rool eye patch, David Bowie eye patch. I'm thinking of every celebrity that wears an eye patch. So she'll be starting at the pit stop in leg 6 with an eye patch. So that's really going to impact Morgan and Lena's ability to perceive Morgan's ability. Lena's fine. Lena doesn't have an eye patch. The only way Lena's wearing an eye patch is if Morgan gets frustrated with her and just punches her right in the eye, as opposed to kicking her in the eye. Yeah. So Morgan's depth perception is going to be limited, so they have to be really careful as to who does the roadblock in leg 6, because if it's anything visual or the depth of something, Morgan is going to be in big trouble. Let's see. And Do I have any other mildly offensive jokes in here? Morgan and Lena had a rule to switch detours after, if they don't have a detour done in 25 minutes, they have to switch. And again, this was old school Amazing Race. That time limit to complete a detour would be bumped up to a much longer period of time. Certainly not 25 minutes. And especially back then, detour options were not very close to each other. Most of them weren't anyway. It's not like it is standard today where detour options are within walking distance, very close walking distance of each other, 100-meter sprint distance of each other. So that rule, yeah, you have to adjust the amount of time you spend at a detour before switching based on what era of the Amazing Race you're racing in. And given they are still trying to do 12 episodes in 20 days or maybe even less now, I don't know if the hashtag 12 shows 20 days still filming schedule still applies. But they can't have the legs run for too long anymore. So, the detour, you should be done pretty quick. And if you're not, you either have to stick with it and just hope you catch on to it, or really bank on somebody and on another team struggling as much as you do at the detour that you just abandoned. So there's still a bit of, you still have to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. Let's see here. Yeah, Corey hammers his own thumb. Milena hates the task. Yeah, apparently Milena hated the image task, and then she sang about how much she hated it. Wonder if there will be a singing task for her. And speaking of which, Andrew and Milena, I have to offer you two an apology because I thought you two would shit the bed so bad that you'd be knocked out in 13th place this season. And here you are, finishing 4th out of 10 teams on this leg. So far you have slightly exceeded my expectations. Let's see if you can continue growing the excess of the expectations in which you have exceeded. That's not a wordy sentence I ever teach my English students. Let's see. Oh, Liam and Jeremy refused to help Joe and Ian for the obvious fact that both teams thought they were in the bottom 2. So it wasn't as much as Robin and Chelsea going completely silent on Todd and Ashley asking for help. I'm curious if Robin and Chelsea were thinking through the U-turn strategy, if they assumed every team would just U-turn whoever they thought was the strongest, or if Robin and Chelsea just did not give a flying rat's ass about what other teams thought of them and just thought, if we get U-turned down the road at the must vote U-turn, who cares? They can all eat feces. It doesn't matter to us. We're confident enough we'll still survive it because it'll be early enough when there'll still be a weak team or two left that we can beat. Let's see. Yeah. So again, do you want to go through the placements? I guess I could. Let's see. Yeah, Stephen Anley won the leg. It's probably much easier if I just go on this window rather than going through my notes. It says you don't want dead air. Here we go. Stephen Anley first, Greg and John second, Joel and Garrett third, Andrew and Melina fourth, Todd and Ashley fifth, Rob and Corey sixth, Robin and Chelsea seventh, Liam and Jeremy eighth, Morgan and Lena ninth, and Joe and Ian, the team that only has 6 letters in their team name total, is eliminated. We have gotten rid of one of the 5 freaking all-male teams this season. 4 out of 9 teams are indeed all male. That's a lot of penises still left in the race. And hey, Annalie can now, if she does more travel vlogging from India, she can tell us all about rickshaws. That was a bit of a low shot. And let's see. Yeah, I don't really have any other notes. We're going to see the must vote U-turn next leg. I think Robin and Chelsea are going to get U-turned. I think the anti-social team will be U-turned this time, especially when it's completely anonymous, so that Robin and Chelsea will have to just scream at everybody instead of just scream at whoever's names they see. They don't have enough energy to punish everybody or verbally assault everybody. They won't be able to do that, although it would be hilarious if they tried. Maybe if they survive leg 6, we can, and everyone's stuck on the same flight for leg 7 to fill the 90-minute airtime. They only do a detour and a roadblock, and the pit stop will be at the same location as the roadblock because we get to spend 20 minutes of Robin and Chelsea just cussing the crap out of everybody else. That would be a fun episode. Finally, viewers have wanted conflict. There's your conflict. Just Robin and Chelsea just going apeshit on everybody, and then talk about their tattoos or something, or talk about the group tattoo. Whatever happened to those gals? All the things she said, they're still running through my head. All right, peace out and just chill till the next episode. I offered no insight to this recap. You just wasted a half an hour of your fucking time.